but you actually see her go up to push something, and it starts coming down.
You can hit the button again before it's fully open to pause it.
Lots of connectivity. And clearly, when we go back and watch RJ's that we dissected for 30 minutes, it looks there's no hump. And then Mafra was in what was called a production model, and there is a hump.
The other thing is that there are some R1S pre-order holders that have just recently started their 8-step purchasing process. I've seen
There
a
are?
couple of them.
Gosh,
Yeah.
dang it. Hey folks, this video is brought to you by RivianStories.com. Please join us there to get the latest Rivian news, pics, and videos from Rivian owners and fans. We also have t-shirts, hats, and gear guides for your next adventure. Also, if you want to listen to the full episode of today's video segment, just search for Rivian Stories in your favorite podcast app. Lastly, please do like and subscribe. It actually does make a huge difference and helps us keep creating content. The R1S Manual came out last week. We tried to record the next day. I got too busy, or you got too busy, or something. So now it's Monday after. We've had some time to digest it, and we thought that we would bring it to the YouTube crowd and just say the top things that made it into our minds as far as either new things or new questions. There's a lot to digest. Can one of you take it away with one thing you learned or one thing you confirmed?
One of the things that I thought was interesting is that the R1S only has 2 climate zones, left and right, and that applies to front seat, second row, and third row. And I know a lot of people were maybe not thrilled with that news, and I don't know if that is the final spec or whether there could be more zone control in the future. But for now, put all of the cool loving people in your vehicle on one side and the warmer loving people on the other. The upside is that temperature is eventually going to equalize in the vehicle regardless. Air doesn't stay on one side of the vehicle exclusively, so that's going to happen. And you do have vent control, so you can shut off vents and do things like that. So I personally don't think that it is a huge deal.
Yeah, that's a
Some
great
other people
point.
do.
Yep. Jimmy, you're an R1T guy. Did you even look at the R1S manual? Do you even care about anything at this point now that you have your Rivian? I mean,
guys, full disclosure, my big takeaway from the R1S manual is that it's finally here.
I know, right? The manual being
The manual. Honestly,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I haven't read it yet.
Yeah.
I did confirm that I too only have dual climate control in my R1T.
Yeah. Well, I'll give my top takeaway, and we kind of had hints of this coming, but there is no storage under the middle row, under the second row of the R1S, nor the third row. Early prototypes showed storage under the entire way, because we're thinking subwoofer is going to be like way towards the back of the vehicle. But since those now tilt forward and slide forward, and then another person left a comment that since those fold flat, there's no storage underneath that middle row. So I'm not hugely bummed now that I understand. I would rather actually have better access and folding flat long term probably, but that storage is so darn cool. Skylar, what were you going to say?
So Kyle, I think that you will be able to store things under there, even though it's not an enclosed storage area. That space didn't go away. From what I've seen with regards to the way that the seats fold, they actually fold, the backs of the seats fold on top of like the bottom seat cushions, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that shouldn't affect the amount of room there is underneath that seat.
Yeah. It does pancake over, like you said. I thought the same thing, Skylar. Like, I wonder if there will be, space under there. It's just not in a plastic container like it is on the R1T, but maybe you can still slide a ball glove or a box of Kleenexes or whatever it might be under there. Time will tell. This is obviously begs the question, when will we get an interior blog post from Rivian? Right. I thought that we would have had it by now for sure. I thought we were going to get it last week. We got the whole key thing, which we could maybe talk about that more at the end. But yeah, the seats. Along with that, so as far as it sliding forward and tilting, it'll get good access to the back row. Whether we can get anything under, time will tell. I'm looking for this comment about what I said about it folding flat. Is there a potential, Skylar, to where as it folds, there's like another mechanism that lowers the seat cushion? And then as you raise it up, it kind of like, I don't know. I mean, you would think that seat cushion is going to be where it's at.
Yeah, you wouldn't add that complexity. Just like that, Kyle. You got it.
I wasn't sure if you were popping and locking or...
Yeah, I thought that it was either the robot or a Bruce Lee impression, one of the two.
Yeah, it does slide forward. Related, the third row is now manual. At one point, we thought there was going to be a button. It is definitely manual. There's going to be a little tab here.
I saw a couple of buttons still in the back of the R1S.
Well,
most power folding seats still have a manual option.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that the third row at least is powered. And it didn't mention anything about that I saw.
It didn't, no. Though the actual text of this is that you flip this up and the headrest will go forward and then keep it pulled up more and then the whole thing will pancake over, so it's kind of like a two-stage action.
Yep.
As far as that being powered from the back too, yeah, maybe. I would be surprised if that middle row is powered. Really surprised. One question that came up with the middle row is whether it will lock into place only in the back of the slide, or if you can kind of like slide it all forward and have it lock. Does that make sense? I think that will only lock into place when slid backwards. But we have heard reports from the comments that you can recline it.
Right. So that's two things that were not covered well in the manual. Mm-hmm. Is does the second row have multiple sliding positions? Mm-hmm. And does the second row recline? And reclining, I certainly hope so. I mean, my 2015 Jeep Grand Cherokee had reclining back row, second row. Mm-hmm. And the sliding capability with multiple adjustable spots would help potentially fit bigger people in the third row.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Good stuff about the seats. So the other big one that sticks out to me is you can't operate the upper power liftgate until you close the tailgate. We have some good comments after that. But the other thing there is that the actual manual only mentions opening that power liftgate with the screen or the key fob or the app, but no button. And so that got a discussion like, is there a button? And if there's a button, it is not listed in the owner's manual anywhere.
That is correct. Mm-hmm. And that would be a big miss. I think that is a miss that is too big for Rivian to make. Mm-hmm. And whether it is, doing a little dance behind the R1S when it's unlocked to open up, or swiping your foot underneath the bumper or something like that, or an actual button on that top liftgate, that is a big deal. If every time I wanted to use my liftgate, if I had to bust out the app or the key fob or hit it on the center screen, that would be a terrible pain. But I have faith in Rivian. I don't think that they would miss something that big.
Yeah.
It may not be a button, it might be another way, but there should be something.
Yeah. Yeah.
You could even have some smarts in the rear camera.
I was actually just going to say that. If you have to strike a pose to Gear Guard Gary, a certain pose.
You got to do the Bruce Lee while you're holding groceries.
Yeah. You know, what I mentioned there is like, sure, it's, you know, it's great that you can open it these other ways. The amount of times during the week that one of my kids gets into my Tahoe is like at least 5 times a week because they're getting a baseball bag out of there or a school bag. When we take home 2 kids and 2 friends, they all put them in the back. And so my kids are always getting in there with just the, you know, manual liftgate without a key or anything. And so that's the biggest reason why I would want some other reason or some other way than those other 3 mentioned.
Certain older pictures, Kyle, it does look like, at least on some of the prototypes, that there was a button or an oval that looked very similar to the button that's used for the frunk.
Yep.
But no mention of it in the owner's manual.
Yeah. So I'm logged in here on my account. Yeah. Yes, my configuration is still unlocked. So on this video, as you'll see coming up right here, I was looking up there at that top, that little 2-second thing. Somewhere I have downloaded and I couldn't find it. But you actually see her go up to push something and it starts coming down. So that's a clue right there. I will have to find that video and overlay it on the edit. It'll probably take me like 3 hours just to find the darn video.
You know, the thing that we always forget, or at least I forget personally, is the beauty of a digital owner's guide is that tomorrow that guide could be completely different. You know, you're not, the beauty of these cars is that we're not locked into anything, you know. I mean, obviously there are certain areas that we are locked into, but tomorrow's OTA, like, we still don't have 15.0 for the garage door openers. But once that hits, I'm going to have the ability to open up 16 garage doors, and I may just ask neighbors for garage doors because I've got one. I'm going to feel a little left out, you know, but like the beauty is that there's no telling what tomorrow brings with these trucks.
If any of the YouTube audience knows, Rivian employee or otherwise, put it in the comments. The people need to know.
Yeah. The people need to know, exactly. Related to this, though, someone brought up that there is no mention in the manual of setting a stop point for that liftgate. So many vehicles, you can set a maximum height so that either you can reach it or it doesn't bump into a garage door or something overhead. So we don't see that either.
The way that the frunk works is you can hit the button again before it's fully open to pause it. And I would assume it's going to be the same with the liftgate on the R1S, but that is an assumption.
But as far as setting a max, like a memory for like only open this much, do you think that that'll be an option?
It could be. I mean, once again, that's one of those things that's software. To Jimmy's point earlier, I will tell you, you know, there are things that these vehicles will never be able to do. There's a hardware dependency for every software feature.
Yep.
But if the Rivians are equipped today with the hardware to do the things, then the sky is the limit as it relates to software upgradability and enhancements in the future.
Yep. Yeah, definitely have to open the liftgate before you open the tailgate. That we kind of already knew anyway.
And for those people that are complaining that you won't be able to drive with the tailgate open and the liftgate down, this is a Rivian, not the Beverly Hillbillies.
Amen.
If you have something that long that you need to transport, put it on the roof racks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some people saying no air compressor. No, that's definitely there. That's actually in the manual.
Yep.
Lots of connectivity. That is one thing that just kind of jumped out to me as far as the kids will always have a place to plug in and more. And then is there anything else that you guys wanted to point out as far as R1S manual?
There was one other thing that I thought was kind of funny that I saw some chatter about online, and it's that it said that there are no cup holders for the third row.
There are.
But it said that there was 2 bottle holders for the third row. And we've seen on the sides of the R1S, in front of the armrest, that there is what I would call a cup holder. So, once again, if anyone knows the delineation point between cup holder and bottle holder, yeah, right there.
Yep.
Why is that a bottle holder and not a cup holder?
Well, because it says that the third row can accommodate 2 child seats. I mean, and children.
What about sippy cups, though?
Children that are small enough to drink from bottles obviously know. Obviously know that when they're not drinking their bottle, they put it in the bottle holder.
Yep, that's why.
That's why.
Yep.
One more thing that we need to see is the rear cargo area of the R1S. What is under the cargo cover in the back? I mean, when I say cargo cover, I'm talking about the floor, basically.
Yeah.
That covers the spare tire area, and what's it going to look like with and without a spare. The other thing that we three have talked about internally is the back cargo floor of the R1S looks different in the production model from the video that we saw with RJ folding the seats flat.
Yep.
My assumption there is you're going to be able to have a level cargo floor using that cover, or you're going to be able to remove that cover and prop it up on a ledge that's on the back of the third row seat to have a flat surface to where but inclined, if that makes sense. So right now there's a hump behind the third seat.
I'll have to insert that picture of the hump that we're talking about. And clearly, when we go back and watch RJ's that we dissected for 30 minutes, it looks there's no hump. And then Mafra was in what was called a production model, and there is a hump. And, there's those anchor points in the one Mafra was in, so that's indication that it is newer than what RJ was in.
I think they were there in that one too.
Were they?
Yeah.
Okay.
The accessory rails, if you will. I don't know what else to call them. Were those called out in the R1S owner's manual?
No. Not that I saw. They're just they're there, but they weren't called out.
That's another interesting point. So we know some features that are in the vehicle that were not included in the owner's manual.
Yeah.
The other thing to point out, Kyle, is I actually responded to an unrelated tweet that Rivian made. Actually, I think it was their tweet about the different key options. And I said, hey, we need to see some R1S interior details soon. And it sounds like that's in process. So hopefully it will not be long before we see that.
It's got to be this week. Come on. It's got to.
Bring it. Well,
Bring it.
the other thing is that there are some R1S pre-order holders that have just recently started their 8-step purchasing process. I've seen a couple of them.
Gosh,
Yeah.
dang it.
They're not you.
Well, that's the perfect segue into my next topic. All right, folks, that's it for this one. Again, catch the entire episode on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or your favorite podcast app. Until the next video, we'll be hanging out at RivianStories.com, so we hope to see you there.